Serena. I'm an analytics consultant here at CCG. I don't quite have as much experience as Nate and Ryan, especially with PowerBI, but that actually kind of fits in my narrative today, talking about the ease of use of self-service analytics tool. I'm going to be presenting cohort analysis in PowerBI, demonstrating PowerBI's strength as a self-service analytics tool. So in Gartner's 2016 Business Intelligence and Analytics Report, they talk about this trend that we've been seeing for a number of years of BI and analytics going from being this IT-led initiative that requires ETL work, a predefined data model, and going to be this business-led initiative that really focuses on what Gartner is calling analytical agility and business user autonomy. So what they mean by this is the business user doesn't need to go through IT, open up any tickets. They can just get quick insights into their data themselves. This is definitely evident in the rise in self-service analytics tools such as Tableau, Click, and PowerBI, which are actually the only 3 technologies in that leaders quadrant for 2016. It's definitely important to note that these 2 approaches are complementary. Self-service analytics isn't going to take over scalable, well-governed enterprise reporting systems. But if a company wants to stay competitive, they're going to have to adopt these tools, and they're going to have employees that know how to leverage them well. So I'm going to focus on PowerBI's strength as a self-service analytics tool and show you a typical analysis that might be performed in such a tool. I chose cohort analysis because it really follows my narrative well. It only requires 2 fields of data, so there's no data model, no data warehouse necessary, flat files are fine. And all the variables necessary in DAX can really be picked up quickly by anyone that's a confident user in Excel. So jumping right into it, what is a cohort? Simply put, a cohort's a group of people, whether it's users, students, or customers, who share at least one common characteristic. Most oftentimes in business analytics, this common characteristic is data first purchase or sign-up date. And what a cohort analysis allows you to do is track and compare these groups over time. And more specifically, what it allows you to do is identify interesting trends in acquisition and retention. Acquisition and retention are really the driving forces behind this analysis. There are 2 main ways to visualize a cohort analysis. The main way is in matrix or tabular form, often overlaid with a heat map. So here on the rows, we have the cohort group based on month of first purchase, and running along the top, month since first purchase in the columns, and each individual cell represents the retention rate for the given cohort and the given month since their first purchase. So if we wanted to interpret this cell right here, we would say in the 6th month after their first purchase, 22% of customers who first bought in July 2009 made at least one purchase. Okay. Better? No? Better? Yeah. Maybe, okay, I think we just can't touch that antenna. Line graphs are another popular way to visualize cohort analysis. Here, retention rate is on the y-axis, and month since first purchase is on the x-axis, and each individual line represents a different cohort. This is a really great way to visualize this data. Immediately, our eyes are taken to the dark blue line, which shows that cohort has steadily lower retention rates month after month compared to the other cohorts, and a good analyst is going to pick up on that and research further. So why is this useful? Cohort analysis is simple, but it can be very powerful as well. Take, for an example, a startup that's in its early stages and is seeing a steady increase of new users month after month. If they just plotted their acquisition, they look really great, and they may think they have nothing to worry about. But a cohort analysis can paint a whole different picture. I use the same data to make this cohort analysis. And we actually see retention rates are decreasing month after month, even though more users are signing up. So as a young startup, they may be able to get away with this, But as they grow and they start to penetrate the market and their acquisition rates reach a plateau, declining retention rates are going to be a problem. It's going to stunt their growth. So if they had an analyst perform this analysis early on, they'd be able to identify it and remedy it. So I do want to explicitly state how we're calculating these retention rates, so my demo makes a little more sense. Up top, we have a cohort analysis with the raw data. And what these retention rates are essentially percent of row calculations. So if we wanted to calculate the highlighted 2 right there, the retention rate, we would take 2, which is the distinct count of March cohort members who made at least one purchase 11 months after their initial March purchase, and we would divide it by 39, which is the total size of that March cohort, to get a retention rate of 5.1%. And if we continued this percent of row calculation for each cell, we would get the matrix form down below. So what's really great about cohort analysis and why it lends itself to self-service analytics so well is that it only requires 2 fields of data. You just need an order date and a unique user ID. So these flat files are fine here. We don't need a data model for this. We don't need a data warehouse. Any company that deals with transactions regardless of size or IT maturity really should have this data. And once you have these 2 fields, there's only 3 steps you need to take. 1, assign each customer to a unique cohort group. And my analysis will be using a month of first purchase to assign the cohorts. 2, calculate month since first purchase for each transaction. What this does is essentially normalize the transaction dates. So you can compare cohorts that started at different time periods at the same stage in their life cycle. And 3, calculate the retention rate for each cohort in each given month. So that's that percent of row calculation we just talked about, dividing the distinct members of the cohort who made a purchase that month by the total size of that cohort. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to be writing the variables from scratch in DAX, but I do want to go over them. DAX is Power BI's native language, and it can do some pretty advanced stuff and get complicated, but what I'm doing tonight, any confident Excel user can pick up on. I'm just using 5 functions. First date function, you put in a list of dates, and it's going to spit out the earliest date in that list. Date diff, pretty straightforward. You put in a start date, an end date, and it's going to tell you the interval between them. You can specify the interval if you want it in days, months, years, etc. Distinct count, I think we're all familiar with. We are going to use this to count that distinct customers who made a purchase each month. We don't want to count customers who made multiple purchases multiple times because that will inflate your retention rates. The all except function is the only one some of us may not be familiar with. What this allows us to do is roll up our calculations by any dimension you'd like. So what I mean by that is I put in all my transactions for a year into the first date function. It's just going to spit out January 1st. What I really want to see is the first transaction date broken down by customer ID. So I can use the first date and the all except function together, and I will be able to calculate the first transaction date for each customer.